So everybody, welcome to the Breathe 911 podcast. We got Matt Chenard with us. Matt, probably he would say first and foremost is lucky to be married to Jolisa. They got Duke, who is their dog. Matt is at one time an aspiring NHL player, we'll say, a high-level hockey player. Let's go with that. And he is the co-host of the Lifestyle Engineer podcast. No, he's the co-host of the Greater Purpose podcast and the host of the Lifestyle Engineer podcast. Matt has been into CrossFit for the last 10 years, fitness all his life. He is a biohacking coach and a great all-around human. I came across him on Instagram, and he's going to fill in the blanks. So how'd I do, Matt?
Great. I think the only thing is that no one gets right the first time. It's Jolisa, but
Jolisa.
Besides that, you nailed it.
Nice. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. So I wanted to, you know what? Why don't you give an introduction to anything I missed and or anything that you want to share, and then I got a few things I want to chat with you about.
Sure. I mean, yeah, thrilled to be on here, Darren. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I think you covered it all. And there's some things you said that I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I would say every hockey player aspires to play in the NHL, but I wouldn't say I was super close. I played competitive, had the opportunity to get scouted by some higher level teams, but that's about as far as it went.
Right on. Awesome. Well, so I came across you, my wife. So I'm one of these guys like you who's a bit, I'll say a bit eccentric maybe with our maybe health, wellness, fitness practices. I like to say eccentric. So you'll find me in cold tubs where I can find them, in lakes where I can find them, all these things. And I came across you, and I was just as your Instagram was actually really increasing and you were getting a lot of traction. And the one thing that I really appreciate is because it's been about 3 years of you posting daily, missing maybe a few here and there, you said, but daily, a reel or a story video to Instagram on your daily cold plunge reminder. If you guys haven't seen Matt on Instagram, he does your daily cold plunge reminder. That's what you call it, right? Daily cold plunge reminder.
Yep.
Yeah. And I caught it right on the front end where I just saw the engagement in the views exploding. And what I really, really appreciate, because I struggle with this, is being consistent when there isn't that growth. And for 3 years, you were posting these videos of you doing your thing every day. I'm sure it was a way to, I'm guessing if you're anything like me, maybe it was a way to keep you accountable to doing the thing that you're trying to do. And yeah, one thing I really wanted you to chat about was just that consistency piece when you're trying to probably grow a business and a channel and things, and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
It seems to be nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit, that process and that staying consistent for that long?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it all comes down to what I call the anchor method. So basically anchoring yourself to something bigger than the outcome you want. So like you said, I committed to posting every single day on social media. So sometimes it was pictures. Actually, Instagram about 3 years was predominantly just pictures, right? Carousels, like the sliding effect, that got a little more attention. And then just recently, they've really been pushing reels. So just recently, probably in the last year and a half, I started to do more reels. I did longer form videos of my cold plunge reminder. And going into the consistent piece, like you asked, Darren, the question is, I committed to doing this because I was always a little tentative and nervous what people would think of my ideas or my thoughts, or I thought that I didn't have anything to add different than other people. But the more I grew and started to do different ventures, like business ventures or growing myself physically in different areas of life, the more I realized like I might have something to offer. So I committed to that process of posting almost every single day. I probably missed 5 times in the past 3 years. I started my account I think I started posting every single day at 340 followers. And so 3 years later, I think it was just before Christmas, I gained, from that day, I would have 10x'd, right? But it's not like a 10xing over those 3 years, there's a 10xing in 1 week. So it's this overnight success. But it took me that 3 year time span to get better at creating content, to get better at formulating my words, to get better and more confident in doing these things. But that's also not to say that there was days where I wanted to just stop because I started to feel silly sometimes and saying, well, no one's probably watching this. But then I anchored myself back to why I was doing it. And if it's just for that one person, so that's what I really push people into finding, is this anchor, this purpose behind why they're doing anything in life. I think a lot of successful people are just not necessarily more strong-willed or more mentally or physically resilient. They just are more rooted to their why than anyone else.
When you say you committed to that, because that has a different meaning for a lot of people and a different, maybe tactical way of going about that. Did you write it down? Did you tell somebody? Like, were your commitment level? I know you had a big why behind it, practically and tactically. How did you commit to that? Because I mean, for me, just thinking about it, saying I'm committing to this. I mean, I've done that with hundreds of things, and it had some of them yes, some of them no. What was your process like to commit to that posting? And was there an end date on that? Did you set a time to that, or?
Yeah, good question. I verbally committed to a few people close to me, specifically my wife, because at the time I would write a post for Instagram as an example. I'd find the perfect picture. I'd write what I thought was the perfect copy or the caption. Then I'd send it to my wife to proofread it. So this whole process would take me 2 to 3 days. And then sometimes I didn't even post it. So more, I was just getting fed up with the process and this mindset of it having to be perfect. So initially, when I started this, to answer your question more clearly, I committed to myself and to my wife. But initially, when I started this, I would get anxious when I posted something, thinking like, what if something I said isn't right? What if I misspelt something? What if the grammar is off? But with this consistency, I start to care less and less. And it's a good thing because, which I didn't, when you go viral, a lot of people start commenting on your posts to just want to stir things up. So it's a good thing I built this resistance or resiliency.
Right. Yeah, I think it's Joe Rogan that says like just turn your I mean, you want to respond and engage with your community, but
Yes.
like just turn your comments off, right? Like just
Yeah.
scroll right by it. Because
Yeah.
in reality, if that person has time to comment on what you're doing and what they think about, they're not doing their own thing, right? They're just
Right.
right. So good for you. Good
Correct.
for you. That's hard. A couple things that I came across. I listened to your solo podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah, and a couple things that stuck out to me, a couple words that you used was one, seek discomfort, which is, I think, in this whole cold exposure arena. Two was combating fear, which you just kind of touched on, that fear of putting yourself out there, that fear of what will people I don't even know think. I thought you had a really, I mean, the fourth one is consistency, which we've touched on, but you had a story about when you started CrossFit, which has been a bit of a journey for you, in your first CrossFit workout and the ego component of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to tell the story here or not
Sure.
about your first workout, but I was wondering if you could maybe jump into how you keep your ego in check, or how you think about approaching things. Because as you do things more in public and more coaching, you know, your ego is going to creep in, and you're going to think of yourself more than you think of others at times, or at least I am prone to that. So yeah, just maybe chat on that CrossFit story. And
Yeah, I'll tie that all together. So I started CrossFit, was it 2011? I think I did my first workout 2011 or 2012. And I went on CrossFit main site. For those that don't know, CrossFit has continually put a workout on CrossFit main site every single day for free, which you can do and you can comment. And I don't remember all the movements. I remember one movement from this workout. It was overhead squats. And there's a guy's weight and a lady's weight on each workout prescribed RX. So if you're doing it RX, which I didn't know at the time, even if I did know at the time, I probably would have still tried. It's like the RX weight. So the top of the top would be using this weight. So I tried the ladies weight, the RX ladies weight, and I've never done overhead squats before. And I could walk, but it was very difficult. Like I was hurting so much for the next 2 weeks. Like I was significantly humbled. And I think a lot of early adopters of CrossFit would say is it piqued their curiosity, right? It kept them coming back. Now, I own a CrossFit gym and I make sure that people don't have that same experience because I don't want them to have the same story about my gym, but I was doing it on my own. But in terms of humility and the ego, yeah, that definitely humbled me. But the more I've grown, the more I pursue things, the more I realize it's important to keep your ego in check, but just having a practice ground for that. So whether that's people around you that you can be honest with and that who can be honest with you. So that's one way, because I think there's a lot of people being nice, right? So you're being of this false nice, meaning that you're never going to call someone out on something. But I want to surround myself with people, even if I don't receive it super well all the time, that can be honest with me and say, hey, maybe your head's getting a little inflated. Um, and I am very aware of that. But I've also been someone that, believe it or not, because it seems silly to say this, but that I don't really like the spotlight. And I have never really liked the spotlight. I don't like people watching me or seeing what I'm doing, which again doesn't make sense. It seems counterintuitive to what I'm posting every single day, right? And that's kind of the reason why I started posting that. Um, and another big way that I stay humble is that sometimes I share the squat rack with my wife at the gym. So she can, at times, depending how I'm feeling, squat the same amount of weight as me. So I'm like, it really doesn't matter. And the more I'm able to just enjoy these things for what they are and not try to be anything to prove anything to other people, the less anxiety you have around them too, right? And the more you can enjoy them.
Right. And I think we both come from the Christian faith background. Well, I know we do. Listen to your podcast. Would you say that your faith plays any role in that?
Yeah, 100%. I know there's a Christian clothing company called Humble Daily, and I can't remember what verse they use. And I had a shirt. I don't know where it is. I really like the shirt, but it's the whole brand name is Humble Daily. And I like that. And it's part of that, one of the values I try to live into, and especially with my faith and knowing that no one is no more or than anyone else, right? At the foot of the cross, meaning like we all fall short and we're all short of perfection. And knowing that, and I think I said that on a podcast too, it's like this realization of how far I fall from being perfect that actually enables me and motivates me to try to be better, but not in like this guilting way, not in this egotistical way, but more like a humbled, like I want to pursue excellence in every single thing I do. And I want to try to be humble about it, knowing that none of this is mine to keep or to prove or to say that I've created it all, right? It's just an opportunity I have.
Totally. And that perfection piece, I'm a part of some men's group, Tim Kennedy and Matt Boudreau. I don't know if you've heard of either of those
Tim
guys,
Kennedy.
but Tim
Yeah.
Kennedy's an MMA Army guy.
Okay.
And then Matt Boudreau is his business partner. And they basically have started schools, alternative schools, down the States. And they have a young man's program. And then they have a program kind of for dads and older young men that they've just launched. And one of the things that he said is, in that perfection vein, is we will never reach perfection, but that doesn't mean we don't strive for it from a position of pursuing excellence without the ego attached to it, though, right? Because the victory, and like, nobody's going to remember. I find it very funny, right? I mean, this gets a little bit, I don't know, self-defeating, but like, I don't know my great grandparents' names,
Right.
right? Like, we think that we are very important because we do podcasts and we are online and everyone's on TikTok and Instagram and everyone's out there. And it's like, yeah, but it'll be gone. One day it will all be gone.
Yep.
Right. So it's not important. And it is very important to pursue excellence. It's both, right? So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a tangent there. I wanted to ask you about your daily cold practice.
Mhm.
So one thing I wanted to find out, because I know what it is for me, and I'd be interested if it's similar for you. Is it because you could like Huberman and what is it, Soberg and all these, experts and doctors and all these scientists and researchers in these fields are like, there's so much physical benefit from it. I don't disagree. Would you say you practice it, if you had to pick, do you practice it for the physical benefits or the mental benefits?
I would say mental. Yeah, absolutely. So I actually, so during the pandemic, because I own a gym and I
Right.
mentioned that in my podcast too, is when I most heavily leaned on getting uncomfortable, right? Like defeating this thing that I don't want to do. Like I really don't want to do it. Like I spent 30 minutes this morning procrastinating on doing it because I really don't want to do it.
And you have to set up a camera too, right? Like it's another process for you too, right? It's not
Yeah.
just like, I'll just get in and nobody will know if I do 10 seconds or 2 minutes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And that's part of the reason I
Right.
record it too. It keeps me accountable to that. Um, but yeah, the mental side of it, whether it's defeating this resistance that I continue to battle against every single time, like continuing pushing momentum, continue doing something hard that I'm going to know is going to be overlapping in other parts of my life, or whether it's actually like the dopamine response and the clarity and the energy and the peace I actually feel in it too, right? There's so many mental benefits. And a lot of the physical benefits, I don't really know if
Right.
I'm less sore. I know that, but the other stuff, it's harder to see in the short term or the cute.
Right. I would even say that from my experience, and I would agree with you 100%. So we've just started running once a week. We do with first responders in the area, we do like a breathwork session, and then we do community cold plunge, which is amazing. Like it's so much more fun to do with people, right? And that's what I say. I'm like, you can go and like you'll probably feel better after. Your dopamine will probably be increased. Sometimes I notice it, sometimes I don't. But I'm like, you, especially if you do more than one round, like you will not want to do it. And once you're in there, you will fight it, and you can't fight it. And if you continue to fight it, it will just continue to. It's going to suck no matter what. But I say
Yeah.
I mean, the physical benefits, if it didn't have any physical benefits and it was only the mental game, that's I would still do it because that's the reason why I do it. And I think a lot of people get in this like it's kind of a fad thing right now. Like it's all over the place, right? And
Yeah.
so I think people are like, oh, it's gonna make me lose weight and it's gonna make me healthier and I'm gonna be happier and like these things are true to a point. But I mean, one of the things that you talked about is consistency plus resistance equals persistence, right? That's one of your things in your anchor of true alpha method, right? And I think it's that resistance of my brain's telling me to do something and I don't want to do it. It's like, how quickly can I jump? Like, am I going to procrastinate 30 minutes? Like a better win is to do it when, right? So
Yeah.
it's that mental game that but I was interested in your take on why you do. I think most people that do it fairly consistent, they would probably say the same thing.
Yeah. It almost starts to, I think a lot of these habits that we adopt in our life, it starts to form our identity, right? Like I don't ever want to have this, like I would be in some people's eyes, a cold plunger, right? This a cold tubber or whatever else. Like they identify me as that. And the more I can have good attributes associated with who I am, the better. And I think those attributes start to become more concrete in your life when you go through some sort of trial that there's resistance. So as an example, I always kind of thought like this, like, okay, if I want to be more patient, a more patient husband, a more patient leader, I pray for that. But what if it's also about there being opportunities to become more patient, right? So when you enter into these opportunities to become more patient, you have this mindset. What mindset are you going into it with? And how are you coming out on the other side of that by practicing? So when I do these, like the consistency plus resistance equals persistence, is you're doing the things, even if it doesn't feel like someone you are, meaning you're going to the gym, even if you don't feel like you're a gym member or you're a gym goer, but you're going to the gym, you're making those deposits, you're creating that habit in your life. Then when you meet that resistance, but you overcome that resistance, that's when you become persistent in that. You like adopt that attribute and that quality in your life, right? It's something that you don't really have to wrestle over as much. I still have to wrestle to get in the ice tub, but I know I'm going to do it. It's not like I'm going to stop doing it forever. I might miss a day here and there, but it's a part of who I am now.
Right. And I'm just going through James Clear's Atomic Habits, and he talks about, the habit loop, but as opposed to trying to change the behavior and the habit, you try and change the identity associated that you will do that habit. And that's kind of sounds like some of the same stuff that you're talking about. All right, real quick, I want to respect your time and keep these my podcasts aren't that long yet, so, and I don't know that they ever will be.
Snippets.
Short snippets. I want to keep it full of jam-packed, full of good stuff. So I'd love to give you a chance to talk about your True Alpha coaching and what that's all about, and let people know what you do in that and where they can find you if they want to check it out.
Awesome. Thanks, Darren. I appreciate that. So currently, I have one-on-one coaching and group coaching, and I do coach both men and ladies. My pack program, my group men's program it's going to be just for men, the 6-month program, and I'm releasing that mid-March. But the basis of my True Alpha program is to help people, men and ladies, become resilient, consistent, and disciplined leaders in all the areas of their life, all the important areas, both professional and personal. And because what I see, and the reason it's called True Alpha, is I want to help people exemplify what a true leader actually is, right? I feel like the alpha word, and I intentionally use that word because there's kind of a stigma to it, right? Like you see, well, alpha is this super jacked, someone with all this authority or prestige or money or whatever else. I think it's the opposite. I think it's someone who's so strongly rooted in who they've been designed to be, and their principles, core values, their vision and mission, that they stay true to that regardless of the external circumstances. Right? That's true courage, right? So whenever you're faced with difficulty, you know that exactly who you are, what your mission is, and how you want to, and what legacy you want to leave for however long that lasts, right? It might last a generation or two. We're not going to be remembered forever, but you're still going to be remembered in the moment, and you're still going to have opportunity to impact people. And when you impact people, they might shift their trajectory. And then that's how you have a legacy, is by changing people's trajectory one person at a time. So that's my coaching program. I also am going to be coaching business people as well. So I'm helping them create their vision and purpose and create their culture to increase profit, increase retention of members or customers and staff. So that's another thing I'm looking to do. That'll probably be under the purpose shift, but those are my main coaching programs right now.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, Matt, it speaks for itself. 900, probably 1,000, close to 1,000 days of getting in a cold tub every day.
Yeah.
And that's what drew me to you, was your consistency, someone's ability to be consistent for that long, whether someone's watching or not. That's what kind of drew me to you. And I was like, that guy's got something that I think he's got something that I know he has something to offer, and something that I've gleaned a lot of, not just motivation, because motivation comes and goes, but that it's like that drive of like, okay, where's the why? Like, he's able to do that. How? Oh, because there's a big why, right? There's a big reason behind it. So I like that you're able to convey that. I think everyone got a lot from what you shared today. So I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate you, Darren. Thank you so much.
Take care. I will stop the recording there.